Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Jamily. This is my husband.
Oh, this is how we're going to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Pierre. This is actually the Strike the Ground podcast.
Yes.
That's where we wanted to start off with, not who we are. But it's great for you to come join us and kind of see us kind of stumble through and figure out this whole process. And
you're getting a front row seat to us learning on the go, I would say. Me learning on the go.
Yes.
I mean, he knows what he's doing. I'm very awkward.
I think I've spent a few months extra.
I'm trying my best, you guys. Okay. And we realized that we hadn't actually introduced ourselves yet. So this is us introducing ourselves. Yes. We are married.
Yes.
I guess we hadn't said that before either, or maybe we did. We said we had kids.
It might have been implied.
Yes. So. Yeah, and this is, like Pierre said, our podcast, Strike the Ground. I hope you guys are getting some substance out of it. We are certainly enjoying it.
Yeah, please, leave feedback in the comments. Let us know if what we're saying to you has any benefit, or if there's something else you want us to dive deeper into. We are trying to kind of keep this the length of the content something that's easier to chew and swallow. So just keep that in mind. But if you definitely want us to dive in more, we can have further discussion on future episodes, or we can just have a discussion down here in the comments section.
Yeah. Yeah. So today I'm going to be looking at my phone because I have notes. We're going to be talking about resilience.
Yes, that's
resilience. That is our topic, resilience. So first, I'm going to actually read off. You want me to start with I'm going to read off the definition of resilience. There's 3 definitions when you look this up. Did you look this up in Webster?
No, I was trying my best to avoid that woke garbage called the Merriam-Webster's dictionary, but it seems that basically all dictionaries have become woke, so there's no...
That is a discussion for a whole nother episode. So let's just go with what we've got here. So there's 3 definitions. The first one is resilience, the power or ability of a material to return to its original form, position, etc. after being bent, compressed, or stretched. Elasticity, for example. Number 2, the ability of a person to adjust to or recover readily from illness, adversity, major life changes, etc. Buoyancy. And the third is the ability of a system or organization to respond to or recover readily from a crisis or disruptive process. So we wanted to talk about resiliency, and it's
resilience. Yes,
resilience. I keep saying resiliency. If different I say, words. Yeah, they're different. I used to think that resilience was a word that it didn't encompass my life whatsoever. I kind of grew up. I hate to use the word weak, but in my mind, resilience and weakness are they're opposites. And I used to think that the word resilience had a lot to do with preparedness or what do you call that? Like war, I guess. Like being resilient in war, being resilient in survival, that kind of thing. That was the word resilience always just brought those things to mind.
Well, I'd say it's not that out of the ordinary to think that this thing as important or as drastic as resilience can be associated with some fairly extreme situations like wartime or like some of the crazy stuff we've been through the last couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah. And so whenever I heard the word resilience, I just always thought
Really?
Yeah.
Was that like a charge or? I'm confused.
I'm learning, you guys. I'm still learning. I'm growing a lot in my faith and just as a person, as an adult. Which I feel like I haven't been an adult for that long, but I'm learning. And I think that resilience is something that is so beautiful and so wonderful when you unpack the meaning of the word, not just, in the dictionary, but also just what it means as a Christian and a follower of Christ. So,
well, it's good to see, though, basically these textbook definitions and kind of apply them to ourselves, like how much we're bent or how much we're pressed or stressed to the point of, do we rebound back to where we were when that pressing or that crushing, when that first occurred? Or are we broken? Do we wind up broken? Do we not make it through that adversity, that challenge, that difficulty? And so I think that it's good to analyze sort of this very extra biblical definition of what resilience means, but it's also good to see how we in turn can apply that in our growth as a Christian.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, just going back to my kind of thoughts around that word, it's all kind of physical. It's like physical resilience, how you prepare for a storm or overcome, like when there's hurricanes here in Florida and you're devastated, in your home or however you come back from that. But there is a resilience it's a mental resilience, and there's a mental resilience and there's a physical resilience. And I think there's also a spiritual resilience that we don't talk about much.
Well, I think it's important also to focus on, because I think they all are interconnected in our lives. Like, resilience as a whole is something that impacts us spiritually, physically, and mentally. And so when we kind of coordinate how we work through the challenges that we face, we work through this crushing, this pressing that we encounter, we will see how we kind of pull through to the other side.
Yeah. Yeah. And this topic, I knew that we would come to it at one point or another. It came to mind when I was going through something physically demanding. I went through a race, and I ran a marathon, and I hurt myself pretty severely during the race. And I thought I wouldn't be able to run again for quite some time. 3 months later, I ended up running again. And thankfully, it wasn't, my injuries had healed and all of that. But while I was running that second race, I thought to myself, man, I am resilient. There is a part of me, physically in that moment, there was a part of me that was just super proud of myself for my body, for coming back from the injury that I had 3 months previous, but also just this resilience that I didn't know that I had. And it made me think of, Pierre played a lot of sports growing up, and to him, I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that physical resilience in sports has a lot to do with kind of mental strength. It reminds you to, number one, you're a team player. You have to be there for your team. Number two, your body has to perform in whatever sport that you're in. It has to perform to win, right? To win the game. That's the goal. And I never had that growing up. And so while I was in that second race, and I was thinking about, man, my body is actually doing this. This is incredible. I was also thinking about, just for our family and our children, how...
Well, let's go back to your example of the race. Like, not only were you able to accomplish this thing physically, but you actually had to mentally overcome the idea of potentially re-injuring yourself, or the fact that you hadn't even trained for, the months leading to this next race. And it wasn't like it was some 5K. It was a 15K.
15.
So running 9 miles is no simple feat. You're not going to catch me doing that anytime soon. And you certainly won't catch me doing that from a cold start either.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important to understand too, that it wasn't just you having recovered and you just magically decided you're going to go that day. Like, you had to then also overcome a lot of these mental obstacles that you'd sort of placed in front of you, as far as, oh, well, someone's going to use my race bib number for this race. So my excuse is set for not being able to do this. And then when that didn't work out, there was another person who might be able to sort of do the same thing.
This is true. Yeah.
There was this kind of repetitive of you, essentially kind of wrestling, at least it was outwardly visible to me, It was you wrestling with this idea of actually following through with this commitment that you had made to yourself, even though you had faced this difficulty of tearing your calf muscle on the 11th mile of a marathon that's 26 miles. So, I mean, keep that in mind. Think about that. She actually finished a full marathon after having ripped her calf muscle less than halfway through. So
you're gonna make me cry. Stop.
So the endurance, the and even that response to those circumstances, those would definitely, I think, help define who you are and like what you're capable of, because oftentimes we put limitations on what our experiences were yesterday instead of thinking about what I can do today. And so we kind of limit ourselves based on oftentimes what were negative things.
Yeah.
Rarely do we remember in the tough times, do we remember right away the beneficial things that we did to prepare for this, or the, say, for example, the amount of training that you went through. I'm sure that didn't necessarily run through your mind that moment. Your leg hurt really badly during that marathon. And so I would say that's like one of the things, one of the aspects we want you to focus on when you're choosing to develop resilience for yourself, that you decide that this is the time that you will cling to what is positive and good, what God has provided for you, what God has blessed you with, what God has given you the endurance for, like whether it's, in your case, this will. It took more willpower, I'd say, than physical power to finish a marathon with a torn muscle. There was that strength. So it was certainly beyond what you were physically capable of that day.
Yeah.
And so you kind of look at that and understand, what it takes in that particular moment.
Yeah, I think that has, kind of a parallel too with anything that you're struggling with, either mentally within the realm of Christianity. Just for example, I have another example. I mean, if you are a woman of Christ and you have this household and you're raising up the next generation, and you have a spouse that you're living with, you're doing life with the person that you're married to and under the same home, there's a lot of mental resilience, I think, that goes along with just being a woman and taking on those responsibilities and submitting to your husband and submitting to Christ and being an example to your children and being an example to the women around you and to your husband. I mean, all of those things take a lot of resilience, and it's a lot more to do with your mental state than what you can do physically. Yeah, sure, I can cook every single night, every single meal. I can clean every single room. Yes, okay, those are tough things to do, but it also starts with a mindset of, I'm going to do these things because they honor God. Number one, He tells us to do these things, but also when you put yourself in that mindset and in that frame of mind, is that how you say that? You are you're allowing room for God to come in, because you can't do it in your own strength, but you're making room for God to come in and fill in the gaps of where, man, I can't do it all alone. If you are doing all of that, it's exhausting. It's exhausting. You have to leave room for God to come in, and having that mindset of, I'm going to do the best that I can to this moment, and then just let God come in and do the rest. That there is a lot of resilience in that, even though it sometimes feels weak. It feels like weakness.
Yeah. Well, basically, I mean, resilience in that regard doesn't necessarily mean it's not a destination, I think, or I guess it kind of is.
Like an end.
But it's sort of the product, the result of what preparation went into your life, your mental preparedness, your spiritual preparedness from reading the Word, from making sure your mind is guarded, so that you can respond to God, or with the Word of God in the circumstances that you're confronted with. I think it's important that when you've prepared yourself, that you've grown yourself sort of inside of you this ability to develop the resilience necessary to endure whatever this challenge is, whatever the adversity is, whether it's In this case, in our society, it certainly doesn't look it's not painted like a very good picture of families and husbands and wives fulfilling the roles that God had established for us to be according to his word. And so there's this idea that there's always going to be this conflict of the man trying to pursue himself or the woman trying to pursue herself in the midst of this relationship, so that to the point that you kind of miss out on what blessings can be the result or be the product of choosing to stand firm on the choices you made, the word of God that has very clearly directed us, and then also to press forward with standing firm on that faith, standing firm in the midst of the social criticism and in the midst of even the familial criticism. And this is something that we're going to talk about more. We just kind of wanted to get introduced to you, what we're talking about here with resilience, so that, we can kind of continue to have this conversation. And so, we're going to have a part 2 of this conversation. Yeah. So, we definitely appreciate if you, continue to join us and, see what we have to talk about. Maybe you're going to stir up conversations in your own lives. And we hope that the fruit of what we're actually accomplishing here is beneficial to you and allows you to grow with your family and grow with your relationship with God.
Yeah. The heart really behind this podcast and this project is to stir up conversations that we feel our generation kind of shies away from and conversations that aren't being had that we think are very important. So if you guys have topics, comments, questions, leave them in the comments below. Email us. We'll put that in the show notes as well, our email address. We just want to get you guys talking.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.